What I didn't know is that my mother-in-law's cancer would return.
Mhm.
And as I'm winding things down in the company and I'm letting the last employees go because we got a clear no, she calls and said, "My cancer's back. It's terminal. I only have a few weeks to live."
Today, we're joined by a small business owner who's got an incredible construction business with his wife and his 5 kids living out in Idaho. He began his construction career early on, first as a laborer, then moving up to a foreman, eventually as a project manager. However, he got fired as a project manager and decided, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to start my own company, bringing 5 people around him to start his team. Over the years, he learned the ins and outs of how to run a business properly. We're going to talk a lot about that. And he discovered what his own strengths and his limitations were. He realized that his own abilities made him better suited to run certain things behind the scenes. So eventually, he put the hammer down and he dedicated himself to running the business the best way he could. What's cool is that his eventual freedom and time led to creating and owning a business and allowed him to delve deeper into the tax code so that he could learn the secret tricks that every American needs to be aware of. Welcome to the show, Nathaniel Eley. So happy to have you on with us today.
Man, Richard, you summed it up there, man. That was good.
I think it's really valuable to have you with us today because so much of the population in North America are in the construction world. I personally am a recovering electrician, as you know, so I've spent a good number of years in that environment. Love getting my hands dirty. In fact, literally, I was building a fence yesterday because every once in a while I have to get it out of my system. And I just really appreciate what the construction trades really do for the world. Or they're sometimes the unsung heroes. Without them coming in to fix things and build things, we don't have a lot of the stuff around us that we need. And there's a lot of hard work that's available there, but there's also a lot of great opportunities, and it's a really great career to have, regardless of what trade you're in. So your first foray into construction, was it the job that was available at the time, or was there something that pulled you into going that direction early on in your life?
Yeah, I had the fortune of growing up in a construction family, so which means I did not have a fortune, but I was fortunate. So I grew up in northern Michigan. My dad is a carpenter, and he's been a carpenter for going on literally 53 years, I think, this year. So he's done it full time his entire adult life, and which meant me and my siblings got pulled into it, and we had to do construction work evenings, weekends, summers, whenever dad had needed help. And we even homeschooled a couple of those years, which meant I was doing construction work when my homework was done. So we did a lot early on and really learned a work ethic, even though I did not enjoy a lot of the work. I enjoyed some of it, but my mind was on, my next sandwich or, thinking about girls or other things besides construction. At the same time, I picked up some skills, definitely learned some work ethic, and then thought, man, I never really want to be in construction again. And, went to Germany as an exchange student, went off to college. But at the same time, that was the skill I had. So even at college, I was broke, needed to earn money. So I kept doing construction a couple of days a week for somebody here locally who would pick me up, take me to the job site, bring me back. I didn't even have a vehicle or anything, but I had some skills. So got to use those. But, fast forwarding, the reason why I ended up launching a company is because, as in your summary, you mentioned kind of some steps that were taken first. I had a skill. It was a hot construction time. So I got hired on as a foreman in a company right out of college because it was one of the first times in my life I didn't have a plan of what I wanted to do next. I was skill stacking though. I finished college a semester early. So I thought, I've always wanted to learn how to weld. Knocked on a welder's door, had him teach me how to weld. Went over and did another thing for another guy and picked up skills, and then jumped in as a foreman because it paid the bills. But within 6 months, though, I was headhunted to be a project manager and actually launch a construction company for somebody else because they saw my work ethic. They had gotten to know me a little bit, felt they could trust me. And then my second to last day in the field, I decided to shorten these 2 fingers with a table saw. So literally a Thursday, when Friday was my last day, I lopped those guys off while not paying attention to what I was doing. Because again, my unique ability is not to focus in a trade, but it is to have 30,000 foot level pictures and strategies and vision of where we could go and take things as a team and build a team. But I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, man, I should have paid attention. And so after I lopped those off and started in the next company, I was 6 months there, and I wrote a business plan, which I'd never written before in my life. And I was getting paid to do this. That was the cool thing. However, the payment was deferred, let's put it that way, because I actually requested that I not get a wage in this company.
Interesting. That's a very unique statement to make to a new employer. So
Yes.
I'm sure they looked at that and they said, sounds great. When can you
Yes.
start?
And so they said, oh, okay. And then we had a conversation around that. And it was a continuing conversation. And I worked really easily 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, most of the time. And someone was literally, allowing me to have a blank canvas, create a company. I didn't have any risk in it, and I could get equity out of it by working my tail off. Such a cool opportunity. So I would work 8 hours a day or 10, in the office, getting things set up, working on the business, designing, a 77 lot development, working with the city, working with an architect to design the homes. I mean, tons of stuff, even meeting with potential buyers. And then I'd work another, 2, 4, 6 hours in the evening, remodeling a showroom on Main Street here in our little town. And then as things progressed, I was doing more and more work, and I started hearing from my boss, the owner, less and less, the point where at the end, I literally didn't even hear from him for 3 weeks straight, like not a word, and I'm running everything. And this went to my head because I'm just a young 20-something punk. And I thought, well, man, I'm just in charge of this. I got it. But what was happening is my boss's vision was different. He was hearing some things from people about, the way I was communicating to them, which was not in a professional manner. It was prideful, to be blunt. And then he just fired me out of the blue. So I don't hear from him, and then he comes back and he just fires me on the spot. And so here I am. I worked for 6 months for no pay, and I was living on $400 a month, which at the time was feasible with my $152.50 a month rent, $152.50. I still remember that. And the rations I put myself on, and then some truck insurance. That was like my only bills.
Wow.
And I had some savings, so I was able to live on that for the 6 months and take this risk. Fortunately, through some tense conversations and negotiations, I did get paid what would have been a base salary because this guy fired me. He chose not to proceed with the business, et cetera. So I ended up with about like $16,000, after taxes, and used that to launch my own construction company, not because it was the next logical thing, but because I didn't have a job and I needed to earn money. And I had really good friends and mentors around me who said, Nathaniel, why haven't you started your own company? You basically just started one. Do it for yourself. By the way, I have this massive historical remodel you can jump right into tomorrow.
Wow.
So that's how I got pushed into it.
There's a few things that stand out there is that there's a combination of belief in yourself and your work ethic and just the kind of the knowledge that that's eventually going to take you somewhere, maybe not knowing where it's going to land, but that creating an environment of people believing in you to be able to set up the position where you literally could start a business, but fundamentally you had a job ready to go. Dan Sullivan says, find out who the check writers are and get the first check and that's a great way to start launching a new idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and I'm looking back, that is absolutely key to, the success that I had over time. It sure didn't look like success at the moment. It just felt like I was like, stumbling and failing a lot of times. But I had people around me, I had relationships. I had, people that I had been a giver to in advance. And so they wanted to invest back in me. And then a lot of times there were people that for some reason saw something in me and I hadn't given them a thing. And that's probably the majority. And they just wanted to help me out. And that's, I contribute a lot of our success to that. Just kind people, and putting yourself in community with other people is massive. So
nobody wins in life alone.
That's for sure. And especially not in the construction industry. It is a team sport. So, and we'll get to that. So, so then I here I am, it's me. I've got some tools and a truck that my grandpa had given to me, and I've got a job to do, and I start doing it, and I need some help. So I start talking to people I know and gathering people around me. And within 6 months, I've got 5 other guys on my team. And you'd think, okay, 5 other guys on your team. Well, great. You're building something and it's happening super fast. Well, what I had was 5 guys who were 1099 subcontractors. And this is kind of a hot topic in the industry and has been for years. They should have been employees, but I thought, man, employees are expensive. I've got all these extra expenses I'll have to have and all this extra paperwork, which was true. And so I had only 1099 contractors, and I continued to build that way. And then I think within another few months, I had like 8 or 9 of these guys, and we're jamming and we're growing. But I am more and more disengaged from the business because I'm just running around with my head cut off, trying to give quotes to people. And I won't even call them bids because they were quotes, they were estimates, and they were terrible estimates. We would run over on our costs by like 30 to 200% on a quote. I mean, just ridiculous amounts, because we weren't taking the time to actually line out what a job required. And of course, it's the classic contractor conundrum. You're trying to close sales because you're starving while trying to finish a job that you underbid. And you just are squeezed on both ends, and you don't have the time to fix it. And for me, I didn't have the desire. I was just like, oh, I can't stand this. I liked that I was earning some good money. I liked that, I could bring some guys in and have some friends to work with. But now I just want to like sit in my little basement cave and like read these business books. These are super fun. This is cool. This is cool stuff. I just love reading these books. But I'm not going to apply anything in here. I'm just going to read it because it sounds so fun. So that's basically what I did. And at the same time, I thought it would be great to launch a concrete division, because I had a guy come to me who was an unbelievable concrete finisher. So we got that up and running, got that launched for selling concrete jobs. But I neglected to, screen for the fact that he was also an alcoholic and a Coke addict. Really? And I, of course, discovered these things very quickly, but just thought, oh, he's working on it. No problem. Which is, one of those also classical situations in construction. So this continued for way longer than it should have. And then mercifully, the recession ended it all.